Hi there. I'm gonna go over how to fill out a time card right now. This one is specifically for the payroll company Cast and Crew Payroll, but it's pretty standard, and this also would apply to any handwritten time cards as they all have comparable, similar categories. So we'll go into this now. So the first thing is VIN. That is specific to Viacom. If you work for Viacom, you have a Viacom ID number. However, that would not be applicable for most people. However, if you do have some sort of ID number or other info aside from your name that you're identified as, that would go here. Then the next thing would be employee name. So you would put your name here. We'll just use a fake name for this one, and my name here is Brad Pitt. Next line is your address. Again, you put your address. For now, I'll just do 123 4th Street in Los Angeles, California, 90210. And then again, your phone number. This is always make sure to put all of your personal info and to write it legibly because this is how they'll send you your check and also how they will contact you if there's any issues with your time card. So just putting in some fake temp info. So job description, here you'll want to write what your job title is. That could be a production assistant. If you are a production assistant, you want to write the full title, not just PA. So we'll leave that for now. And then your weekly or hourly rate. Typically, you're not going to be hired on a weekly, but more likely on a day rate. And then you'll have a guarantee. So for example, let's say you are a production assistant, your rate might be $250 for 12 hours. Now, you don't want to put $250 for 12 because that is not how the payroll company is going to process your information. They want to know how that breaks down hourly. So what you would do is if you're on a 12-hour, you're going to take your total, and instead of dividing by 12, you're going to divide by 14 because there's already some overtime built into a 12-hour day. So if your day rate is $250 for 12, you'll do 250 divided by 14, and your hourly rate is going to be 17.8571. You always want to go to the fourth decimal, so 17.8571. Let's double check that that's correct. Yeah, 8571. So that is your hourly rate. Now we'll go over here. What's the project? Let's say the project is called La La Land. Your work location is likely going to be Los Angeles, California, but it could be anywhere. It could be New York, New York. It could be whatever. So in this case, we'll do Los Angeles, California. And project start date, we'll put today. It's my first day of work. And then project end date will be the end of this week. So that's 1/25/19. And then this is important because week ending is going to pre-populate these dates for me. So the week ending being a Saturday is going to be 1/26/19. Now look, it just pre-populated all of these dates for me. If I manually enter them, it could actually screw up the time card. So I see that I already pre-filled this, so let me erase that real quick. Now I'm going to put myself working a 12-hour day every day this week from Monday through Friday. Now, in reality, you might work less than a 12-hour day, but you always want to make it 12 hours so that this hourly rate times a 12-hour day equals your guaranteed day rate of $250 or whatever that day rate is. So I'm going to put myself in, for simple math, I'm going to do 6 a.m. in. My meal break has to be within 6 hours of when I started, so I'm going to put 12 p.m. I'm going to give myself an hour lunch out of simplicity. And then my time out is going to be 7 p.m. That way I've worked a 12-hour day plus my 1 hour lunch, and I know that I'm going to get my full guarantee. Now over here, this is an optional thing. Not everybody likes for you to fill this out, but I tend to think it's helpful. I did 8 hours of straight time, and then because I worked 12 hours, I did 4 hours at time and a half. Now, what if you worked overtime? Then let's say you still start at 6 a.m. and let's say your second meal or your first meal is still 12 to 1. But this time you had an out time of 10 p.m. So now you're working a 15-hour day. Now, a lot of times you'll want to deduct a second meal from that because your job will give you a second meal break. If you do, you take out that time, and typically you want it to be 6 hours from your last break. So you would say, oh, I had a meal from 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. So thus making it actually a 14.5-hour day. So then you would say I worked 8 hours of straight time, 4 hours of double time, time and a half, equaling my 12 hours. But then since I worked an additional 2.5 hours after that, I had 2.5 hours at double time. Now another example is some companies prefer you to do military time. So you would do time in at 6, time out, we're going to do just a straight 12. Time out would still be 12, but then your meal break instead of 1 o'clock back in would be 13. And then your time out instead of 7 p.m. would be 19. Your time would still be 8 and 4 because you're only working a 12-hour day. Now, just for fun, we'll do what if you wanted to do this longer day in military time. Your in time would still be 6. Your meal break would still be 12, but instead of 1, it would be 13. And then your second meal, instead of 7 p.m., would be 19. And your out time, instead of 7:30 p.m., would be 19.50. So that's 19 and a half. And then your out time would be 22. And then these numbers, again, would stay the same. And then to round out the week, what if you ended with an overnight shoot where you got off after midnight? So let's say you started at 18, which is 6 p.m. Your lunch then would be at midnight, which is 24. And then you'd be back out from lunch at 1 a.m., which in this case, when you work an overnight, it keeps counting up. So you would do 25. And then again, let's assume that they kept to a 12-hour day. So your out time, you get off work at 7 a.m., that would be 24 plus 7, 31. So that's how you do an overnight. You want to keep counting up past 24 as if it's still part of the same timeline. Otherwise, it can get confusing if you go from 24 to 1 to 7. That math is very confusing to try to figure out. And then again, 8 and 4, I'm noticing this isn't filling in automatically. So 8 times 5 is 40. So I ended up working 65 hours in this week. Now, this section, the WBS element, would only be if your company is providing you with additional coding that they want you to put in, but typically you would leave this blank. That's for their accounting to deal with. Per diem, same thing. If you're getting per diem, you could list that. Like, for example, if on this overnight you had per diem for some reason, you could write that you got per diem, and let's say it was $40. And is that taxable? We'll say no. And then from there on, they can tell you if there's a code associated. Same with your kit. So let's say you have a kit fee for every day of the week. Then you would write the date here. The payment type would be probably on time card, because typically you get your kit paid with your paycheck on your time card. And then the amount would be whatever your kit fee is for. Let's say it's $50 a day. And then again, if they give you a code, you can put that in. And typically you'd have to fill out an additional form to relay your kit or mileage more specifically. But there you go for that. And then the last thing is, I'm going to change the date to the correct date of the end of the week, 1/25/19. And then I'm going to PDF this and sign it, or print it and sign it. This down here is my staff manager. This is where they acknowledge that this is all correct and put their info in case there's any questions from the payroll company. So that should cover that, and hopefully this was very useful for you. Thanks for watching.